Have you ever heard the term phrasal verb and wondered what it meant? Maybe you've come across it in a grammar book or heard someone mention it in a language class. Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. In fact, once you get the hang of it, you'll see how useful and fun they can be. A phrasal verb is just a fancy way of saying a verb that has a little helper word called a preposition or an adverb. These combinations are everywhere in English. These helper words change the meaning of the verb, making it more interesting and natural. They add nuance and depth to our language, much like how spices enhance the flavor of a dish. Think of it like this. The verb is like the main ingredient in your favorite dish, and the preposition or adverb is like the spice that adds flavor. Without the spice, the dish might be bland and unexciting. Together, they create a whole new taste. Just like how a simple verb can transform into something more dynamic and expressive with the addition of a preposition or adverb. For example, the verb go means to move from one place to another. It's a straightforward action that we all understand. But when we add the preposition out, it becomes go out, which means to leave your house for a social event or activity. Suddenly, the simple act of moving has a social context. Phrasal verbs are super common in English, especially in everyday conversations. You'll hear them in casual chats, on TV shows, and even in professional settings. So, if you want to sound more fluent and understand native speakers better, it's important to learn some of the most common ones. They can help you express yourself more naturally and understand others more clearly. Don't worry, it's not as hard as you think. With a bit of practice and exposure, you'll start to recognize and use phrasal verbs with ease. So, dive in and start exploring the world of phrasal verbs today. Let's start with the verb go. It's a simple verb that we use all the time. But did you know that go can have so many different meanings depending on the preposition or adverb that follows it? That's the magic of phrasal verbs. For example, go on can mean to continue doing something, like the party went on until midnight. But it can also mean to happen, like what's going on here? See how the same verb can have different meanings. Now, let's explore some of the most common phrasal verbs with go. Get ready to expand your vocabulary and impress your English-speaking friends. Go on is a very versatile phrasal verb. It can be used in many different contexts and situations. It can mean to continue, to happen, or even to talk too much. For instance, if someone is telling a story and you want them to keep going, you might say, "Please go on, I'm listening." For example, you might say, "Please go on, I'm listening," if you want someone to continue telling you a story. This shows that you are interested and engaged in what they are saying. Or, if you hear a strange noise, you might ask, "What's going on?" This is a way to inquire about what is happening around you, especially if something seems unusual or unexpected. Another common phrasal verb is go out. This one is easy to remember because it literally means to leave your house to do something enjoyable. It's often used when talking about social activities. This one is easy to remember because it literally means to leave your house to do something enjoyable. You might say, "Let's go out for dinner," or "We're going out tonight." You might go out for dinner, go out dancing, or even go out to see a movie. It's all about enjoying time outside your home, or go out with friends. Going out can be a great way to relax and have fun after a long day or week. Go over is another useful phrasal verb that means to review or examine something carefully. This is often used in academic or professional settings. For example, you might go over your notes before a test. This helps you to ensure that you understand the material and are prepared for the exam, or go over a contract before signing it. This is important to make sure you understand all the terms and conditions before you agree to them. Reviewing documents carefully can prevent misunderstandings and mistakes. Let's not forget about go through. This phrasal verb is quite versatile and can be used in different contexts. It primarily means to experience something difficult or unpleasant. For example, you might say, "I'm going through a tough time right now," when you're facing challenges or hardships. This expression can be used to convey emotional or physical struggles. Imagine someone dealing with a breakup or a stressful job. They might say, "I'm really going through it." Go through can also mean to examine something carefully. For instance, "I need to go through these papers before I leave," implies a thorough review or inspection. Another useful phrasal verb is go with. This means to match or complement something else. You might say, "This shirt goes well with your jeans," when talking about clothing. It can also be used in other contexts, like food. For example, "This wine goes perfectly with the steak," indicating a good pairing. Additionally, go with can mean to accompany someone. You might say, "I'm going with my sister to the mall," to indicate you're joining her. Finally, let's talk about go back. This phrasal verb simply means to return to a place or time. For example, "I need to go back to the store, I forgot something," is a common usage. It can also be used in a more nostalgic sense, like, "I want to go back in time and change my decision," reflecting a desire to revisit the past. Whether you're talking about revisiting a place or reflecting on past choices, go back is a versatile and commonly used phrasal verb. So, remember these phrasal verbs and try to incorporate them into your daily conversations. Section 5. Mastering Go tips and tricks. Now that you know some common phrasal verbs with go, how can you remember them all? Don't worry, there are some easy tricks you can use. One helpful tip is to create flashcards with the phrasal verb on one side and its meaning and an example sentence on the other side. You can then quiz yourself regularly to reinforce your learning. Another great way to memorize phrasal verbs is to use them in your own sentences. Try to incorporate them into your daily conversations or writing to make them stick in your mind. Section 6. Why phrasal verbs matter. Speaking like a native. Learning phrasal verbs is essential for anyone who wants to improve their English fluency and sound more natural. Native speakers use them all the time, so understanding and using them correctly will make your English sound more authentic. Moreover, phrasal verbs can often express an idea more concisely and idiomatically than their non-phrasal counterparts. For example, go over is a more concise way of saying review or examine carefully. So, embrace the world of phrasal verbs and watch your English skills soar. Section 7. Phrasal verbs in action. Real-life examples. Imagine you're at a party and you want to strike up a conversation with someone. You could say, "Hey, what's going on?" This shows that you're interested in what's happening and want to join the fun. Or let's say you're planning a trip with your friend. You could say, "We should go over the itinerary together." This demonstrates that you're organised and want to make sure everything is in order. As you can see, phrasal verbs can be used in countless situations, from casual conversations to formal settings. Section 8. Keep going, you've got this. Learning phrasal verbs might seem daunting at first, but it's an enjoyable and rewarding journey. Start with a few common ones, practice regularly, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. The more you use them, the more confident you'll become. So keep going, and soon you'll be using phrasal verbs like a pro.